Hi guys, welcome back to Glittery Crystals. Today we will be doing another Halloween tumbler. I am very excited for you to see how I created this beautiful Sally and Jack tumbler. It's mainly Sally's cup. I am in love with it. I know that I'm always saying that same phrase that I love all my cups, but I really do. Um, I enjoyed making this cup. This cup took forever to make, but it's beautiful. It glows in the dark, and I just love every single piece from it. I hope you love it as much as I did. If you do, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, leave some feedback. I love reading all your feedbacks. And let's get to it. Alrighty, before we apply our tape to mark where we're gonna start designing the glow in the dark glitters, I will attach the water slide and the vinyl that I will be using for this tumbler. That way I have an idea of how much room I have. The main focus of this tumbler is going to be the glow in the dark design. So basically Sally's clothing design. That's going to be the main focus of this tumbler. And I just want to make sure that both my water slide and my vinyl have enough space. This is a pretty decent sized water slide. And yes, as you can see, these are the glitters that I will be using. I will be using these Arteza acrylic paints to mix in with my Mod Podge so I can have some of that tint to it. I was not content with how they tinted my Mod Podge. For me, it was just a very sheen, fine, translucent color. But either way, I still used it. Besides my glitter, I will be applying some glow-in-the-dark powder. I will have the mix that I used for every glitter here on the left side of the screen, and as always, I will leave all the materials that I use for this cup in the description down below. I would highly suggest for you to get a hold of our glow-in-the-dark powders because we are selling out super quickly. I do not have a measurement for how much powder I added on each glitter. I just added two decent sized scoops, and that was it. I was just estimating of how much I would need. But as you can see right here on the left is the glitter that I used and the mix of the glow powder that I used with that glitter as well. And since I wasn't sure how much powder to add, I basically just turned off the lights and I used my UV flashlight to see how much they glowed. Please be aware that there's windows around me, surrounding me, so it's not completely dark, but I was satisfied with the way they glowed. All right, let's start designing the pattern. I have a picture of Sally in front of me just as a reference, but once I googled Sally's dress, it looks like they all have in common the different shapes. They don't always have the same shape of a dress, or the pattern of the dress, I should say. So I'm just winging it here. I am creating my own shapes, but I am using the picture as a reference. Once I have applied my Mod Podge, I will go back with my glitter. I do recommend you mixing very well the glitter and the glow powder. Either way, you will get some of that glow powder around wherever you applied your glitter, and that is fine. You can just use a napkin or a dry brush and just clean it out before you continue with your second color of Mod Podge. So I'm just winging it by here. Like at this point, I'm just winging it. I really do not know what shapes to do or what shapes I'm gonna end up with. But do not be afraid. Just keep going with the rhythm. I am applying the same color on different areas of the cup. But yes, it's basically a hit and miss pattern. After my second glitter, I decided that I was gonna add a second coat of glitter because it was looking very sheen. So that's what I did. I added 2 coats of my glitter. And if you've seen my videos by now, you know that I love to add a second layer of glitter. No matter what, that's just the way that I work. But we will repeat this step until we are satisfied with how it's looking. With this glitter, with this green glitter, I did notice that I must have added a little bit more of that glow powder because it was looking very powdery, if that's even a word. So once I was done applying all my glitters, I did go back and see where it looked very powdery, and I just added another layer of a small, thin layer of glitter, and that was it. So after I was done applying this purple glitter, I wasn't sure what color I was going to use for this small section that was left. And I did not want to apply another yellow color to it or green. So I just decided to go back and use some of that pink. At first, I thought it was going to look very uneven, but I added the 2 coats and I just decided to go for it. It did look like it was going to be uneven and it was going to be noticeable when I was done epoxying the cup. But as the video progresses, you will see that you can't tell that I added another section to that pink. After we are done, let's remove that tape before the Mod Podge fully dries. And also a disclaimer, before we continue with this part, I actually sealed my glitters. Please seal the entire cup if you need to, but make sure that you have well sealed your glitters and they have dried before you continue with this step. So I am using Mod Podge with a brown acrylic paint. I did not have black in hand. And as you can see, it's still looking very sheen as well. But I decided to add 2 coats of my Galaxy Baby glitter. So after I was done applying this first layer, I went back, but this time instead of using the brown tinted Mod Podge, I just used straight up clear Mod Podge, regular Mod Podge over the glitter, and then I glittered my cup again. So once you are done with that part, you will apply your first layer of epoxy. Make sure to seal your black glitter as well. And what you saw here in the first clip was me. I epoxied my cup, I let it spin, but it looks like my cup fell off the cup turner. I was able to catch it on time. It had only been about an hour that I had epoxied my cup, so I was able to rescue my cup. I was very upset when I saw it there in the table, but I removed my parchment paper, I put it back on the cup turner, and I just heated up the epoxy with my heat gun. So this is a tip for you. If this happens with whatever cup, just put it back on the cup turner and use your heat gun. This only works if it's been recent that you apply your epoxy. If your cup has been sitting there for hours and it has already cured, then there is no turning back. But I was able to catch my tumbler on the table. As you can see, there's still texture and there's still kind of a wave of the epoxy, but I'm not that upset with it. I did go over with my epoxy a second time after the first layer had cured. So after it's been at least 8 hours, I did go with my second coat of epoxy to make sure that all of that glitter is completely covered. So yes, it happened again. You're right. This is as raw as you will get with tumbler making. I could just cut off this section of the video and pretend like nothing happened. But stuff like this happens to the beginners or to the very advanced tumbler makers. It happens. S-H-I-T happens, right? So this time my tumbler fell again, but luckily it was almost fully cured by the time it fell. So it did have a few damages, as you can see. There's a few spots where the parchment paper did stick to my tumbler, but it was very minor damages to the tumbler. So I just removed as much of that parchment paper and I just sanded my cup. And as I said, I used my sanding paper to sand those. Specifically, I started with those areas to make sure that all of that damage was sanded down. And after I was done, I passed my sanding paper to the entire tumbler, making sure that I sanded down any area that needed some sanding. This way I am prepping my tumbler for the vinyl. So this is actually a step that I was going to take either way, if it fell or not from my cup turner. So once our tumbler has been sanded, I will use isopropyl rubbing alcohol to remove any of that sanding dust. And it dries fairly quickly. Once it has fully dried, I will use these vinyl strips to outline the design. This is just a guide so I don't pass the design of each color. I actually purchased this SVG file from an Etsy shop. I will also leave it on the description down below. There are some designs that I was not satisfied with using this this file, but it did the job. Let's just put it like that. It did the job. But yes, I am using the thinnest stripe that it comes with the file. I am not sure of the size, but you can look into it with the link down below. I also added this holographic vinyl strip from my fall tumbler. I had this leftover and I decided to add it to this tumbler. I believe it's a 0.15 by 11.5 size. Do not quote me on that, but I believe that's the size. If you want to know the size, you can just go in and watch my fall tumbler. Okay, I will be starting with applying the pattern of each square or each section. I am just randomly positioning these spirals. I don't have that much of an idea at this moment of what I was going for. I was just winging it and applying the vinyl. That's all I was doing. So as I was working, I decided to add this design to the other section. I decided to add these 3 thin lines, and it was a nice accent. And this is how it's looking. So as you can see, I'm just adding little by little the designs and it's coming together. It's actually coming together. I'm starting to like it. At the beginning, I was not sure how it was going to turn out, but I was very satisfied. Just play around with what you have. And I decided to do an overlay of vinyl or of holographic vinyl and the plain black vinyl. That's I decided to do that because I wasn't liking just the black, the plain black design, and it actually did match the design so well. It put everything together so well. And for this cup, there's no right or wrong design to the pattern, or I've seen so many different designs. So just go with what your heart tells you. As I said, at this point, I'm just winging it. I am liking how it's coming to life. And yes, I'm just winging it basically. This is what we have so far. For me, it was missing something. It was missing the stitches that Sally has. This SVG file does not come with the stitches, so it was very hard. It was very, very, very hard to find some good stitches. I couldn't find any SVG file, so I just decided to grab a thin line of vinyl and add some X to it. And that's how I created the stitching. I also did a overlay of holographic vinyl, and I think it is the perfect accent to the design. I am so content with how it's coming together. So right now I added a few strips of the stitching, and I wasn't sure if that was it. So I decided to complete the look with applying more stitches. So every single section had its stitching, and I just loved how that looked. So now for the water slide. This is almost the last step. I applied my water slide, and I was deciding whether to keep the whole vinyl, the whole phrase, or just go with the simple, most popular section, which is "We're Simply Meant to Be." I decided to just keep that one. And before we apply our clear water slide, I am going to apply a white vinyl that's going to be underneath the water slide so it can help the water slide stand out. Make sure to get rid of all the air bubbles underneath the vinyl. Make sure it's very smooth before we continue with applying the water slide. I wasn't liking this vinyl that much. It was giving me a headache. It was not sticking to the cup. It was very hard to peel off the transfer paper. It was just giving me a headache, but I kind of wanted to do the letters a little bit bigger, but I just decided to leave it as is. So we will be applying our water slide in a bucket of water. I like using my Cricut machine to cut around the water slide image. So whenever you put your water slide in the water, it's going to be very easy to just remove any of that extra water slide from the image. So it's going to give you a more crisp image look. So now we will apply some water on the vinyl and then slide off the water slide. Be careful with this image because the hands are the most delicate part of the whole water slide. And slowly and gently, just pull the image and position it. I have fast forward this clip and it looks like I'm going pretty fast, but I'm not. I'm actually taking my time and being very gentle with the image. I'm patting dry the image to kind of remove that extra water, but as I'm patting, I am actually moving the image, but just be careful that you don't rip it. And as your water slide is drying, you will actually be able to see the water underneath the image. Like right here where Jack image is, there was a bit of water or an air bubble, and I just removed it. Once the water slide has fully dried, I will go over my entire tumbler with a quick coat to seal the vinyl and seal the water slide. I epoxied my cup and let it fully cured. Once it has cured, I sanded the entire tumbler, and I actually used a very sharp X-Acto knife to remove any of that extra epoxy that was on the rim. I also make sure that I sanded the rim very well so there was no bumps, and I was good with it. I used, again, rubbing alcohol to remove that sanding dust, and we will spray paint the bottom of this cup. I am going around with my painter's tape, making sure that it's very well pressed down to the image. You don't want any of that spray paint going underneath your cup and damaging the design that you already created. I will go over the tape. I will use the tape to go and wrap the tumbler with this plastic bag as well. Just make sure that your plastic, whatever you're using, it doesn't matter if it's a grocery bag, a Ziploc bag, plastic wrap, whatever you are using to cover your tumbler, make sure that it overlaps so none of that spray paint goes underneath the plastic and actually damaging your design that we have worked for a very long time. And yes, we will spray paint it and apply our last layer of epoxy. And before you use this cup for your drinks, make sure that it's well cleaned from the inside. There's no spray paint on the inside or anything. And before you use any tumbler with epoxy, you need to let your cup sit for at least 72 hours before using it, or as your epoxy instruction notifies you. But it's usually 72 hours before you can use your cup for any beverage. But we will apply our last coat of epoxy and let it cure. Well, guys, this is the final result. I'm in love with this cup. I am just so proud of myself. I'm very proud of myself. In the beginning, I wasn't sure what I was doing, but I am just amazed at how beautiful this cup turned out. There's no words to describe how beautiful it is. I'm just amazed at how beautiful it is. I'm sorry if I have used the word beautiful several times, but I don't know how to describe this cup. I'm in love with it. I hope you loved it as much as I did. And if you have any questions, let me know. I will gladly help you out with as much as I can. But there you go, guys. I hope you loved it. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for all of you that have subscribed and have given me your love, your comments, and your shares. Thank you so much, guys, and we will see you on our next video. Bye, guys.